Kia ora whānau, how's it going? Hey, it's Lewai here, Pastor Lewai Takahu from Kaikoura Baptist Church. Just wanted to give you an update today for our Word on Monday. Firstly, team, I had some really good feedback from church yesterday. It was great to be together. It's good to see the amount of people chatting away during our cup of tea time after the service, and just the different pockets of conversations that's going on. It's really encouraging to hear the conversations and see what people are engaging with and talking about. It's also encouraging to see that no one's leaving anyone by themselves. There's someone's by themselves, someone else will come along and sit beside them, and there's this real whanaungatanga that's really starting to grow within our community. That's really great to see. We've had a few visitors. We had Brian back from South Africa, so it's great to have you back with us, Brian. We pray that you had a great time. Well, yesterday we shared around the Ephesians 6 about putting on the spiritual armour, and it was in the context of a series that I'm doing, a relationship to the Tale of Three Kings. And predominantly looking at King Saul and David, the shepherd boy, who later on becomes king, out of 1 Samuel, around 1 Samuel 18, I think, from memory. And how the week before was about laying down our spears, a cache of spears that we're throwing at people. And this week was about how do we overcome those who are throwing spears at us. I want to raise a couple of questions, and then I'll give some admin points, because I actually said some stuff in church yesterday that was incorrect in relationship to our movements. Josie reminded me last time, I thought, oh yeah, that's not till September. Firstly, I want you to think about how do you keep your faith moist. Remember I talked about how the Roman shields were made out of wood and leather and so forth, and to prevent the arrows capturing the shields on fire, the husbandry that the soldiers would do was they'll keep it moist. They'd either put it in water or rub water over it, and so that when it comes to engaging in the enemy or fighting or standing, the arrows that are on fire wouldn't pierce it. And the wood and the skin wouldn't dry up. So, and remember how I talked about how part of that process of we not only use it to protect ourselves, and so if someone's throwing spears at us or darts, that we can hold our shield of faith up, but there's also a process of husbandry about your faith, that you and I, with our combat buddies, and remembering our combat buddies as those personal one-on-one discipleship that we have with each other, that we've paired up with someone that we trust, someone that is able to, if we're down, we can pray with them, we share with them, we talk with them, and be honest about how our walk's going. And so there's those opportunities where you get together with someone and pray and share and talk and unload and deconflict anything that's going on in your life. That's like putting water on. So too with small groups. We're wanting to encourage small groups. That might be Bible study, it might be interest groups. So we've got a home group, we've got a men's group, we've got women's group, we've got other groups that connect around particular themes or topics, likes of worship or other garden projects and so forth. So these groups are places where the community together can encourage and nurture and support each other, because we can't always do it on a Sunday. Although we're growing, we had 35 in our church yesterday, we had 32 last week, we had 28 away. Our highest has been 60, and so we're getting to a situation where we can't do everything on a Sunday, so we have to find creative ways of how we nurture our faith during the week and other occasions when it suits people. So can I encourage you to think about how do you go about nurturing your faith, as my first question. What are the things that you bring to bear in relationship to the husbandry of your faith and the husbandry of the faith of others, in other words, the shields of faith of others. What do you bring to bear in that process? Are you aware of your personality and the makeup that you have? Are there certain types of giftings and talents and skills that God has given you and insights that you can use to add value to someone else's growth and process and that discipleship process? Because sometimes we find ourselves in a role, in a place, in a time and season where we're young in faith, and so we take a lot. We're taking a lot of those around us. But you can't live in that process all the time. You can't keep coming to church and treat it like a takeaways restaurant where you drive in and say, I want that, and take it and move off somewhere else. For faith to become real and active and alive, you need to be in community with each other. Someone that you can trust. I've got men that I'll ring up, and I'm not ashamed to say men. I've got men that I'll ring up if things are going on or something that's troubling me. I'll call them, and we'll have a cordial. I know this is the same for Josie. She's got a collection of women that she has, and she'll meet with them regularly and talk with them, and there's that kind of the ability for her to download without it going anywhere, because there's a trust in relationship with that. And so, King David, in his time, he was hiding in the caves. He had 37 mighty men of valor. He had 37 men that were around him that were his core personnel that enabled him to achieve what he achieved in his life. Sadly, David betrayed one of them, the last one. He killed him and ended up sleeping with his wife, and the son that was produced out of that, I think it's Absalom. And so a treachery causes a problem for David later on in his life, because that's that third king that rises, or that third personality that rises, that wants to take over from his father and thinks he's better than his father and could do better with the kingdom. So that was my first question. What's the skills and the value add that you bring? What are your blind spots is my second one. Are there things and I guess if you knew what they are, they're not necessarily your blind spots, but are there fish hooks in your life where you are susceptible to spears being thrown at you? Are there things in your life, are there spaces or areas or cupboards in your heart that you have, that you know if someone starts throwing spears or darts at those particular points in your heart, and it could be something about your identity, it could be something that you've been traumatized about, it could be something that happened to you as a young person or young girl, young boy as you're growing up. It could be something recently where the words matter to you. And so that's a thing that people, and some people are very innocent in what they are saying or doing, and because they don't know, you walk away hurt or offended. So that will be the second one. If the first one is about what's the value add that you can bring to a conversation, what are the areas in your life that you're aware of that makes you vulnerable? And what I want you to do is, sometimes that can be used as a spear or a mechanism that we try to protect ourselves. And think about it in the way is, okay, Lord, what do you want me to do with this? How do I grow in this capability, or in this area where there's a shortfall or there's a gap or a grey area in my life? How do I grow through that? What are you teaching me about that? How do I experience a redemptive process to those things that might be areas of weakness for us? And ask the Lord to guide you in that process. Ask Him to reveal the scriptures to you about what that might mean, and helping you grow in that area. Ask the Lord to give you people in our community or in the communities that you walk in, wherever you are, if you're not here in Kaikui with us, in your own locations. Ask the Lord to provide people for you that are able to help you walk on the path. This is where I think the combat buddy is really important. I've shared some things with one of my mates, and only Jose and this gentleman knows about it. And it wasn't so much that I was struggling about it, it was just that it was more about I needed to tell someone, because it was an area in my past that only until that time only Jose knew about it. But it could be used by the evil one to pull me down or discourage me. And so sometimes in the process of bringing healing and restoration to it, sharing it with a combat buddy can be the one that helps you through that process. Now again, you need to be mindful about the trust relationship in that conversation, because some of the things that we do have are very personal, and sad to say it, like any organisation, the church hasn't dealt with some of those things very well in the past, and so there has been abuse. And my last one, so the first one's about what's the value add that you bring, what are the gifts and talents that God has given you. Second one will be what's your vulnerabilities, the grey areas, or those things just in your blind spot, even though if you knew they were in your blind spot, they wouldn't be there. So it's a little bit, you know what I mean when I'm talking about that. And find ways of how do you bring redemption into that process. How do you bring renewal and healing and restoration to those areas of our lives that God is wanting to bring healing to. And then my last question is around the process of how do we intercede, because what part of the closing discourse around Ephesians 6 is once you've got all this armour on, he's also then says continue in prayer with all kinds of prayers, supplications and requests. And that's for ourselves, that's for others, is how do we put ourselves in a posture of praying for others, praying for the needs around us. So whenever you're walking around, have a lens to think about, Lord, what do you want me to pray about in our town, in the spheres of influence that I find myself, those that are working up at Kawha. And I know there are folk praying up there for their work. How if you're in the first responder processes, whether you're St. John's or police or nurses or doctors and so forth out at Kawakawa, what are you seeing that God wants to bring to your attention to pray about? And that can be as simply as saying, Lord, make yourself known in this situation. Whatever's going on right now, please make yourself known. Bring redemption to the situation. Bring redemption into the lives of those that we're engaging. Bring redemption into the conversations that's happening. Whether it's in the council chambers for the Northern Council, whether it's in the local bodies in relationship to business associations, whether it's the businesses on the streets. I've started doing this now when I'm walking around or going shopping. I've got an eye out to not only think about, I'll give some kai or give some money to this person that's busking or whatever, but I think about as I walk past this, Lord, make yourself known in this situation. Bring your redemptive story into their lives. Let King Jesus settle upon them and unfold and reveal himself to whatever's going on in that situation. So there's an intentionality of how we view and watch the world around us and the lens we do that. That's really what I wanted to reflect on for our service yesterday. Is the protection mechanisms of the armour are to make us stand, to enable us to stand against the schemes of the evil one, remembering that we're not fighting against flesh and blood. Even though the hostilities and the challenges and the spear throwers, when we see them, our initial response is to see the flesh. But next week we're going to go into Galatians 5. And so if you want, well, not next week, I'm going to talk about that soon. It'll be on the 7th of August. I'm going to do my third part of this, the Tale of Three Kings, is in response to those that are throwing spears or darts at us. I'm going to jump over into Galatians 5, and we're going to have a look about a life in the Spirit. If the shields and the spiritual armour are about protection, enabling us to stand, what's to come out from that protection? In other words, what's the fruits of it? And so that's where we're going to jump over to Galatians 5 and have a look at the fruits of the Spirit discourse that Paul talks about there. So you can have a little squiz over there. Well, I hope this has been helpful. I pray that it's been informative. I pray that it gives you something to consider, whether you do it by yourself or your combat buddy or your small groups this week. But let's take those three questions. What's your value add? What are your blind spots? Bring redemption to it. And what's the lens that you're looking at in the world, and what can you pray for? Are there things that you can see in your spheres of influence, in the places that God has taken you, where you can ask the Lord to come into that situation? Ask King Jesus to bring redemption into the spaces and places as you find yourselves. He's drawing people to him, and so we need to be mindful of it. So those are those three things. Now, a bit of an update. I mentioned yesterday, I said that I'm going away next week, and then I'm not back till Father's Day. I hadn't realised that Father's Day was in September when I mentioned it. I thought it was the 7th of August. So I'm preaching out at Kirikiri Baptist Church on the 24th, which is next Sunday. I'm also back there for my second series with them, and I'm doing the Tale of Three Kings with them. So if anyone from Kirikiri is watching this, you got a little bit of a clue on that. And then I'm there again on the 14th. I had someone in church yesterday ask, can I get baptised? And so we've actually arranged that on the 31st of July this year, we're going to turn our testimony service also into a baptism service. So if we've got church folk, or we've got folk in our community here who've been considering getting baptised, just let us know, and I'll send you some video links that we've got that I've prepared in regards to some thoughts and discussions around what baptism means for us within the Baptist community, and as a preparation towards the baptism. So we're going to have a baptism service on the 31st, and that was really just decided yesterday when they said I need to get it done. I've been thinking about it for a little while, so we're going to do that. So I'm away on the 24th, back on the 31st, and on the 7th of August, then away on the 14th, and then back on the 21st of August, of which will be also, we're going to have a church members meeting, just to do a bit of updates of where things are at. I also want to talk about what we're doing in relationship to our services and our voluntary activities, just to try to encourage folk to sharpen up in relationship to how we go about what we're doing. God is bringing people to us, and so the culture of being welcome and open and prepared and ready for those that are coming, we need to consider those things. And then we've got our Paua Marangi, which is our leadership training program that we're involved with. On the 28th of August, that weekend, we're going to be out at Whitiora Marae over at Te, and we're running a wānanga from the Friday through to Sunday with a service on the marae, teaching or talking about the theme of God speaks in the land, and how God is weaving his gospel story up the north here. And so that's an event that's coming up. This Sunday, as I mentioned, I'm preaching down at Kirikiri Baptist Church. And then after that, Joseph and I and Joshua are heading to Auckland. Kerry College are having an installation of their whakairo, their carvings. They've got panels and a po that has been put up, and so we're doing a dawn blessing of that on the Monday. And then Kerry College starts again on Monday next week for those that are studying in their theology degrees or certificates, diploma and degree or postgraduate studies. And our leadership program carries on. So we're going to stay on for another night in Auckland, and then on the Tuesday we'll be having our Ngapo formation program, preparing for our August calendar. So then we come into September, and September is going to be our mission month. So we've got some guests coming. We're having our global workers, one who's come back home, Carol, who we've supported over a number of years. She's going to be sharing to us in the end of August. And I've got AJ, who's the General Director for Mission NZ, or Baptist Missionary Society. He's coming up in, I think it's the 18th of September. So we're going to use that whole month as a theme of missions and thinking about this, raising funds for our missions process. And that's not just about overseas missions, it's also local missions here. So it's an opportunity for us to raise our tithings and just catch up with what things are going on and hear what's happening around us. So key things. 31st of July we're going to be having a baptism, and so if you've got friends or whānau that have been considering getting baptised as well, we'd love to have them with us. So that's really just a bit of an update for where we're at this week. Tō reira whānau, do all the like stuff and click on the next one if you find these of value, and let's get things out there, in relationship to your own testimony, in relationship to any of the series that we've done on our YouTube channel. Send it on to others of whānau to encourage them in their faith. We're not trying to be professional, out of touch type of people here. We want to be real and make our church be real and believe in the supernatural, believe that God's working in our community, believe that He's bringing transformation and renewal to our hearts. God is a God of redemption, and He started it way back, and He's working His way through despite all the things that are going on. What's your value add? What are you bringing to the table? Now that God has been with you for a while, what is He giving you that you can bring to the table? What are your blind spots? Are there things that you need to find ways of bringing redemption into it? And what are the things that you can pray for in our communities? On all that whānau, as I said, click the like button, share it on if you found value, and we'll catch you next time. Okay, God bless.